Many thanks for staying tuned. It's still the conversation here on Lagos Television. From years past, U.S. elections have always been competitive, but this year it is more competitive because of several issues culminating into the Super Tuesday's election there in the U.S. today. And of course, like we said before the beginning of the segment, we did say that Kamala Harris, if she wins, will be the first woman to be elected as U.S. president. Of course, will she be able to break that tradition, or will the American voters re-elect the very controversial Donald Trump as president of the U.S. again? That's what we intend to take a look at. But of course, before now, several debates, well, I even say several debates, just a few debates that both candidates were opportune to be together. Various issues such as the economy, healthcare, immigration, climate change, and foreign policy were at the front burners. Are these issues able to sway the American voters to finally decide their president? But of course, we must also put in perspective the 270 votes, the Electoral College vote, which is often the deciding factor. We have a guest in the house today. He's quite vast when it comes to international matters. Of course, and many people always forget that he's an insurance agent. Thank you so much, Mr. Lukman Owolabi, for being here on the program today.
The pleasure is mine.
Right. Of course, the election, Super Tuesday, today. But of course, we do know that the U.S. also has the tradition of early voters. And of course, we've had elections, you know, in the provinces, outside, also online voting, prelude to today, which will be the final election day. But from what you've monitored so far, if you took a look at, you know, the early voters and a prelude to today, would you say that this time round, a lot of Americans would want to be part of the deciding factor?
Wow. Well, when a short man begins to cast a long shadow, you know the sun is about to set. So this is a defining election, you know, for the United States. More so because you have a very divisive fellow in Trump who is ready to go for broke. And it says a lot about the health of the United States itself, about the political environment. So people who have knack for violence and they are ready to do anything at this stage because they feel they have nothing to lose.
Right.
So it's a very delicate moment in the United States. And we're just hoping that, you know, reason will prevail in this kind of election, because it's a thin line, you know, between insanity and genius. So anything can happen, and it will be a conflagration in the United States, and nobody wants that in the most powerful country in the world. So as we watched what is going on today, I hope reason prevails. Most of the state governors have taken security very seriously, and there was even one of the governors who started using the F word, that if you think you are stupid enough to want to cause mayhem here,
we will do it.
Yeah, we'll give it to you. Just try us. So we're hoping that you know, everything goes fine.
Okay, going by the build-up to this election, the campaigns, the debates, the controversies, and the issues at stake, what do you think will be the thinking of Americans when they are voting today?
Well,
they have seen Donald Trump in action before. Kamala Harris was never a president. She was the vice president to Biden. What do you think will form their decision today?
Yeah, we are looking at it. We are on the threshold of history. And that sentiment is there. You know, we cannot rule it out. A lot of women are thinking that, well, she can be a trailblazer. She can open the doors for many of us. So the women are thinking, okay, let's give her a trial. But you know how America is, the white supremacists, you know, the supremacy of the Aryan race, as they call it, that these people of color, you know, should not be at the helm of affairs. You know, the sentiment is always there, you know, but when it comes to issues of immigration, you know, the Democrats, the Latinos will always go for the Democrats. You know, most of the African Americans too
Will go for
will
that.
go for the Democrats. But the white supremacists, the rednecks, will always go for someone who projects their image, and that is what they have found in Trump, and that is, and most of them are probably in the rural areas, and things are changing now. You can see with in the last election, even in the electoral college, the 7 swing states, the Democrats, you know,
Also
won
got
in 6
right,
of the
of
7.
them.
Even though in 2016, Trump had the upper hand there, but you know, there was a swap in 2020 when Biden, you know, took about 6 of the 7 swing states, and this election is mainly about the swing states, the 7 swing states of Arizona, Nevada, Georgia, Wisconsin, Michigan, North Carolina, and which one? One other state.
There's one more.
There's one more. So Pennsylvania, and Pennsylvania has about 19 electoral votes there. That is also a battleground for them. The last time it was Democrats that won. It was Biden that won Pennsylvania, but with a slim margin.
Right.
But it's still a win. You know, in fact, in 2020, most of the swing states, you know, just a margin of 1 and 3, between margin of 1 and 3. That's how they won it. So that's what makes this race very tight.
Right.
You know, because anything could happen at any point in time. So if we're going to look at history, look at the record, you'll assume that Democrats will have it. But the important thing is, in the traditional GOP states, the red states, they have about 137 sure votes, electoral votes, about 137. And they have about 77 likely.
To go in their
77
favor.
likely, and that includes the state of Texas that has about 40 electoral votes, which is high. And they also have, they are also likely to take Florida, which also has 30 electoral votes. But in the traditional blue states, they have the blue states, the ones that are sure for them, they have about 197, which is sure, and they have likely of about 35. Invariably, we now have about 214 electoral votes. That is very likely for the GOP, for the Republicans, and we have about 232 that is very likely
for the
for the Democrats. So that's why I said it is the swing states that will now determine which, you know, wherever the swing states go, if Democrats can pick up Pennsylvania, for instance, which is likely, then you start adding 19. If they can take Michigan, that has about 15, then you add another one. And if they can take 2 other states, you know, maybe like Nevada that has 10, and there's another, Wisconsin, I think Wisconsin too, has about 11. So it's basically about the swing states. That is what it's going to come down to.
Right.
So that's why many of them, they don't bother going to all their traditional
They
states.
just go to
They
their
concentrate
on
the
those
swing
swing
states.
states.
So North Carolina is there too, has about 16, and that's where Trump has, you know, focused more because the Democrats took it the last time. So they are now saying no. This one
This one
it's
is
our
very
tradition, it's
important,
it's
and we
our
don't
home.
want to lose it
You
again.
understand? It's like PDP in
That's-
Nigeria saying
this
"I'm
is our
going to- this is
forte."
our forte. I mean, the
Right.
Southeast is our forte. You can't take it.
Take it away
so
from
you now
us.
concentrate more effort.
I mean, Lukman, from your breakdown now, and then going back to the issues surrounding the Electoral College, there are 538 total
538, yeah.
votes, and then of the 538, 270
270 is what
270 is what is required. And like we saw in 2000, and I think in 2016 with Hillary,
Oh, yeah.
Hillary got the most popular vote. votes.
Yeah.
But of course, she was not the president because, again, this happened
Yeah.
and the issue around the Electoral College came to play. For a lot of people who do not understand the U.S. politics, who do not understand why 270 remains germane and why you can actually have a greater number of voters, but you do not have the Electoral College as a problem. Do you think that this is also a problem with the U.S. voters? Are they also looking at breaking this rank and maybe not allowing the Electoral College be the deciding factor?
I think it will continue to be the deciding factor. It's the founding fathers, I think, thought it wise that, look, and that was as far back as about 1787. They thought it wise that, look, it's either we allow Congress to choose the American president, or we allow the states to have a say, that is the citizens, to have a say in choosing the president. So it was a middle ground for them that, look, instead of going this way or that way, let us stay in the middle. That was how the Electoral College came into being. So what happens is, before the election, the political parties will choose their delegates. You know, we call them delegates. You know, they have their own name for them. They have their own name, but basically they are delegates. They will choose those delegates from amongst, you know, loyalists of the party. It could be party chieftains, it could be activists within the party, it could be, but definitely not the office holders, not the congressmen. They are not allowed, you know, to be delegates. So when they choose the delegates, they are delegates in waiting. So like, let's say California, for instance. California has 54 electoral votes. So the Democrats will have 54 electors. Okay, yeah, they call them electors. You know, we call them delegates in our, in our
system here.
So they will have 54 electors in waiting. The Republicans will have 54 electors in waiting. So when they do the popular vote, when Americans go out and choose, you know, who to vote for, they're actually not choosing the American president. They are choosing the electors. They are telling the states that, look, this is the person we want the electors in our state to choose to vote for
on our behalf.
On our behalf. So it is not the American citizens that chooses the American president. It's actually the electors. So the electors will be in waiting. So when the election takes place, and in a state, let's say in California, for instance, the Democrats have majority. You know, I think I have a bias for Democrats. So the Democrats win, you know, the election in that state, for example. It is the electors chosen by the presidential candidates that wins, that now goes to a meeting of electors to now stamp authority on it. So that's when you have, and that will come up around December. You know, I think for this year it's December 17. So that is when they meet and then vote and approve the person they have voted for. So that is what happens in each state. So if Republicans win in Iowa, for instance, it is the electors of Trump that will now go to the meeting of electors.
And then
so that is the Electoral College. So that is what they call the Electoral. All of them will now meet from each state and then stamp and approve the person that have won in each state. So they now count, you know, because the states are not proportional. Yeah, California is, because of the population, they have 54 electoral votes. So 54 there. Many of those small states have only 3 delegates or 3 electors. So they will count those ones too. Like Texas has 40, Florida has 30. So when they go there is no second place. It is the party that wins the popular vote that they will all vote for. Sometimes you have faithless delegates, you know, faithless electors who will say, no, I don't even feel comfortable voting for this. You know, it's a rare case. And I think even the Supreme Court has adjudicated on it that, I mean, it's not your prerogative.
Right.
Since you have already pledged that
So
this
you
is
have
what you are
to-
going to
you
do.
have to do it.
So you do it. But there have not been any sanctions for, you know, a few of these faithless
Who have refused
that
to.
have come up. At least about 99% of those who have pledged have voted.
Right.
That, yeah, this, I'm going to vote for Democrats, I'm going to vote for this party. So that is how everyone from the 50 states will now come together, and you know, the District of Columbia, all of them will now come together and say, in so and so state, California, for instance, the Democrats won, so they record 54 electoral votes for them.
Okay.
If Republicans take Texas, they record all the 40
For them.
If Republicans take Florida, they will record the 30 for them.
Okay.
So if Democrats take Pennsylvania, for instance, they'll record 19 for them. So that's how they
Would
add
add everything
together.
up.
and then the electoral votes. If
Will
you can,
amass.
if you can,
Surpass
if you can
270?
surpass, if you can take 270,
You are the winner.
You are the winner. But there can also be a tie,
Yes.
269 each. And when that happens, it now goes back to the Congress.
Okay.
To break the tie.
Yeah, they will now be the ones to elect
The president.
the president of the United States. The House of Representatives will vote for the president, while the Senate will vote for the vice president. So in that scenario, the House of Representatives can vote for a president from the Democrats, and then the Senate can now vote for a vice president
Democrat.
that is a Democrat. That's a Democrat. So you can actually have the
Two
president,
parties.
yeah, two parties at that
As-
level.
oh,
Look,
wow.
man, the American election and electoral process is quite complex from
Yeah,
your
it
narrative
is.
this morning.
It is.
But what are we likely to see in terms of counting and election results? Is it going to come out in a number of days, or we are likely to see what happened between Bush and Al Gore, where it took weeks for us to see the results?
Oh yes, it can happen, and I think it will happen. You know, because especially in those swing states, because they know that the swing states are determining factor. So you can have a situation where, like in Pennsylvania, for instance, they don't count the mailbox elections, the mail-in ballots. They don't count until after the election is over, maybe like around 6 p.m. today.
The
Okay?
early voters.
The early
votes,
voters,
okay.
they don't count them until after
Today's election.
election.
Right.
So in many states like that, you know, elections in America is state-centric.
Right.
So it's not like
A
INEC
federal-
taking over everything.
Everything.
So it is state that determines. So the laws in each state
They
are
also
different.
differ.
So this one can say, okay, since we all have the mail-in ballots, let us start counting from now. Some other states, they will say no
Until we're done with the votes.
until we are done with it.
Right.
And then there could also be a scenario where they count and then somebody disagrees and goes to court. And until the court adjudicates, it does not become valid votes.
So this is likely to take
So
months.
that is likely to happen. So we are not. It's not as if
We
by
will
tomorrow
know- we will know
who the president is or not. In fact, in some states, Donald Trump and his minions have already filed preemptive suits, over 100 preemptive suits.
Already
They
seeing
have
what has
already-
not
yeah,
happened.
It has not happened. They have already filed a suit that if this happens in Michigan, if it happens in Wisconsin, if it happens in Nevada, they're just going to activate it. And baseless assumptions. They'll say non-citizens have voted, you know, all those kind of baseless assumptions. They're not likely to win, but they will delay the process.
Right. Again, let's quickly look at some of the things that may also shape how the voters will vote today. And first will be the economy itself. A lot of people had assumed that during Joe Biden's era, which of course he'll be finishing, you know, this tenure, would have thought, okay, because of the way the Democrats have handled the election since Barack Obama, for them, it's a win-win situation, other than when Trump came and then things, somersaulted. And so some would love continuity with the process. How do you think this will play a big role in the minds of the electorate today? The economy of the U.S. as we speak, not as buoyant and as it used to be. So a lot of people also do not realize that the U.S. is also facing its own economic hardship. So will that be a deciding factor today for either Kamala or for Donald?
Many people say, the economy is a deciding factor in America. I hardly believe that.
Why?
Because you see, it's about people getting jobs, right? So, especially in areas where you have, immigrants, the Latinos, the African Americans, and so it's always a factor. But there are deep-seated issues,
okay,
that sometimes override that. As long as it is, in fact, I even think immigration matters.
It comes higher
than the economy.
Right.
Because whatever kind of economy you have, people will still survive one way or the other. They will still survive. And unless there's a government that is deliberately, suppressing, some kind of demographics within the American system, that you say, oh, this one did not favor us in any way. That's when, the economy becomes an issue. But I don't think that is the situation.
So now that you've placed the immigration issues over the economy, will this be a deciding factor? Because I know a lot of people who think that bringing a Donald Trump will just come into compound immigration issues, especially from what he did during COVID era and during his first term as president.
In fact, that is what will probably work against him more. They believe he's an erratic person. He just takes decisions on the spur of the moment, and he tends more, to his constituency. And the constituency is about the rednecks, the people who don't believe they should even have immigrants at all in the United States of America. So the belief is a bull in a china shop. So nobody wants to touch him with a long pole. So that's going to work against him. Then it will probably now boil down to, foreign relations, which is also a very key factor in the American elections. And what they see is still the same demographics. It's the same people, the Christian, rabidly Christian, population that will support Israel, for instance.
Right.
Those kind of things. So it's still the same demographics that will support Trump. So it now boils down to how entrenched are they? How are they going? And they are motivated. And that is also an issue.
Okay.
That's why they are now announcing to the Democrats that go out and vote. Do your mailing. Go out and vote. We know we have the numbers, but this
only
lackadaisical,
only if you can be part of the
process.
Right.
They have kind of lackadaisical attitude. So most of the time, it's about mobilizing the Democrats to come out, and because they know they have the numbers. When they do the census, for instance,
yes,
they know that we have more Democrats in America than Republicans. So it is clear. So it's just a matter of going there, mobilizing them, motivating them to come out and vote.
Okay.
So if that happens, then Democrats will probably have the way.
All right. Looking at, we don't know where the pendulum will swing at the end of the day, but no matter where it swings, what is the need for Africans and Nigerians?
I believe America is losing it as a country of influence in Africa, for instance. The BRICS have come to break the monopoly of the United States. you know, especially during the time of Trump, they didn't believe Africa was important, you know, to
in the equation.
In the equation within the international system. So they didn't put more effort. It was only when they realized that Africans were now, you know, tilting towards China, and even Russia. So they started thinking, we are losing out. The same thing happened to UK. They abandoned us for so long because, you know, of EU. They were focusing more on European countries. It was when they had the Brexit that they now started saying, let us go back to our
Africa.
traditional allies. You know, so I don't think America has, you know, so much influence within the African continent, except when it comes to issues regarding the World Bank and, you know, IMF, and African countries who delude themselves that they want to be in the Security Council of the United Nations. So they still have to pander a bit to the United States.
Like us.
Yeah, you know, sometimes we deceive ourselves that we want to be, you know, members of the Security Council. We can be members, ad hoc members of the Security Council. I think
But not have a permanent seat.
Yeah, not permanent seat. You know, we have about 15 countries can be ad hoc members of the Security Council. But as permanent member of the Security Council, I don't think that's going to change.
But President Joe
anytime
Biden still gave an assurance to President Tinubu during that phone call that he would work.
They would always work. They have been working
To
for
get a
100 years. It
permanent
won't
seat.
happen. I don't think it will.
Look, well, let's quickly also look at, yes, all eyes are on the presidential race, but also the election will decide control of the Congress.
Oh, yes.
With 435 House seats and 34 Senate seats up for grabs. What do you say? Because it looks like oftentimes there's usually the concentration at the center, and a lot of people also do not put all their eyes on those houses, and they are also a deciding factor.
No, they are very important.
Right.
Very, very
If we go back to how the speaker, you know, emerged during the last time after Nancy Pelosi, that was tough.
Oh, yes.
And it was an era that a lot of people were rooting for those guys. So how important are those elections as well at this time?
They are very important, you know, because it when as a political party or as a government, when you want to, you know, pull your policies
weight,
through,
right,
you need majority, you know, in Congress. So for the House of Representatives, where they have about 435, and if you can take majority, then because the House of Representatives, I think they have the power of the purse when it comes to budgetary
money issues,
money
right.
issues. And, you know, the Senate is also very important, you know, because they also have some things.
Yeah,
that
but they are
exclusively-
lesser because they are just 34.
Yeah, they're 34, but they wield a lot
The
of
big
power.
stick.
Yeah, they wield a lot of power when it comes to, you know, pieces of legislation too. When you want to choose
The attorneys, the judges,
the judges
right.
and all that. So you also need them. So I think it's the Democrats that control the House now.
Both houses, yes.
No, I think the Republicans have taken
Back the Senate?
Yeah,
Oh, really?
They've taken back the Senate, and the Democrats have
The reps.
the House. So each one will be looking at ways, you know, to outsmart the other now. But the way I look at it, it probably will still maintain the status quo there. The majority in the House of Reps will still belong to the Democrats. So what can happen? Anywhere you have the upset will probably be in the Senate, where so many things can tilt the stick in favor of the Democrats.
Right.
And if that happens, I think it's game over.
Okay, Lukman, looking at the situation of the world now, there are so many challenges in different parts of the world. What kind of American president do we need at this particular time? Erratic or someone that is calm?
You'll need someone that is level-headed. Level-headed. You don't
And
need,
that we can
you
see in
don't
Kamala
need-
Harris.
You don't even need to say anything. You just need someone that is level-headed. Don't even mention names. We need someone that is level-headed. We don't need that kind of divisive personality as
Trump.
Trump as president of the United States at this time. you know, because the world is so volatile. Things are happening, you know, particularly around the Middle East, and we need someone to calm things down. So we even in NATO, you know, we have, there should be a kind of moderating influence, you know, within that sphere. I believe that even Joe Biden has not done very well with NATO. So you can now imagine when you have someone like Trump controlling NATO, it can be worse.
Right.
So we need someone with a calming effect, someone who's level-headed, someone that can look at issues objectively, someone that has at the back of the mind that we need world peace.
Right.
And they work towards it. That is the kind of person we want as American president, because give or take, the American president is the most powerful president in the world, most powerful man in the world. And we need someone there who can just sit down and reflect and say, let us save the world.
As we close this conversation today, I know that when we started, you were tilting towards Kamala as an ex-president of the United States of America. But as it stands, both of them are in contention, and until there is a winner declared, will continue to be in dilemma. But for you, you've already said who you'd wish would be the next U.S. president and the kind of qualities that we need for that person. But whichever, I mean, whoever emerges as the new president of the United States of America, world peace is important, especially what we're witnessing in the Middle East at the moment. And also there's this battle of supremacy as to who is the next most powerful country in the world, even though a lot of countries are saying the U.S. is no longer the power bloc. But for you, what would you like to see going forward after the election?
Well, I believe with all I've seen now, even with the polls and how the voters are behaving now, I believe that Kamala Harris will win.
Okay.
It will be tight. It will be close, but I believe Kamala Harris, because it's an idea whose time has come. And we need to experience this. We have seen Trump in action. So that is another thing. We have
At
already
least we
seen,
know what he can offer.
We can see. We have already seen him in action.
And we've also measured a bit of Kamala as
Yeah,
vice president.
As vice president.
No, you really can't know anyone as vice president.
Because she was not fully in charge.
Yeah, because you are not in charge. Until you take the driver's seat, then we can say, oh, this is the kind of person you are. So I think the world is ready for change.
Okay.
Americans are ready for this kind of change. They have seen Trump. If we have not seen him, it will be a different ballgame. But we have already seen him. We have seen what he can do.
Even during this campaign.
Exactly. Even during this campaign, we have seen him. In fact, you remember that he was on the verge of assassination.
Yeah.
So that
Cooking things up.
Yeah, that shows you how
Desperate.
how desperate and divisive the man is. So I think the world is ready.
Okay.
For Kamala Harris, and we need the feminine touch. Women are special
At least the feminine
people.
touch the Americans people refuse to give to Hillary Clinton.
Oh,
Perhaps now they can give.
Oh
that
yes,
to-
yeah, because that time they wanted to test Trump, and they have already
But
tested.
looking at the enormity of the responsibility of the American president, do you see Kamala carrying it through?
Oh no, it is never a one-man show. It's a presidency. It's not only the president. So and America has, they already have a system in place. They have a structure that
Delegation.
Yeah, you hardly can fail in such a situation, because some people will check you. They have a process of checks and balances in the United States. That's why you can see no matter how erratic you are, they can deal with you. That's why today, on many levels, Trump is a convict. Because
Yes.
they can actually deal with you when they want to deal with you. The only thing is they also need to strengthen, their.
But why would some of them still want somebody like Trump to come back?
Because it's the same everywhere in the world. Look at Nigeria too. You'll see someone you believe is a divisive fellow, and some people will be supporting the person. It happens everywhere.
Look,
you would always have, if the devil comes here now and says,
you'll find people that will follow
you will find supporters.
Okay, before we allow you go, I mean, it would just be unfair not to have mentioned, of course, the current governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz, who is Kamala's running mate. Will that also be some positive for Kamala?
Well, it's coming in with a lot of experience too. It's coming in with a calming effect. He's someone who is deep and could also be resourceful. You know, when we are talking of
experience.
When you're talking of experience, you're talking of economy, you're talking of foreign relations. He's a vast fellow too.
Right.
So he can
complement
Kamala.
Right.
And you know, Kamala has not only within the government, even outside the government, they have people who are well-wishers that are ready
to support her.
You know, Barack Obama, for instance.
And Michelle.
You know, all of them, even Hillary, Oprah Winfrey, you know, everybody, they are ready to lend a helping hand, you know, to Kamala. So I believe that whatever Kamala needs, she can get.
Right.
Because of the kind of people that surrounds her.
All right. When the election is finally done and dusted and a winner announced, we hope that we can get Lukman Owolabi's reaction after that.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for finding time to be here on the program today. We appreciate
My pleasure.
you. All right, we'll take a quick break. The conversation returns shortly.